In this video, we're going to be talking about how we can use the scientific method to create and perform an experiment. The first step of the scientific method is to ask a question. In our experiment today, our question will be, what happens when you place baking soda into vinegar? Our next step to use the scientific method is to form a hypothesis. A hypothesis is an educated guess on what we think is going to happen during the experiment. My hypothesis is that once we put the baking soda into vinegar, the liquid will start to bubble up and expand. Now we perform the experiment. The materials we will need for this experiment is vinegar, a measuring cup, an empty clean bowl, a spoon, and finally, baking soda. And since we aren't using any harsh chemicals today, it is not required to use safety equipment such as goggles. However, it is always a good idea to use these things just in case the substance splashes or spills. I'm going to start this experiment by pouring half a cup of vinegar into an empty bowl and then putting in a teaspoon of vinegar with it. As you can see, when the baking soda was placed into the vinegar, the two substances reacted and formed bubbles and made a fizzing sound. The final step of the scientific method is to state our conclusion. A conclusion is whether or not the hypothesis that we predicted was correct. In this experiment, our hypothesis was correct because when the substances reacted, they formed bubbles and expanded. So why did this happen? Baking soda and vinegar reacted because baking soda is known in science as a base. Vinegar is a substance known as an acid. When you mix a base and an acid together, they react and release a gas known as carbon dioxide. You know carbon dioxide because that is what we breathe out and what plants breathe in. The formula for these two substances is shown above. That concludes this experiment.